opening a laptop. I have to copy paste in Google.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of HFC Corporate Connect. While getting onto the field and playing football is extremely challenging in the current times, communication and knowledge sharing is not. And therefore, as a part of the commitment towards community building and engagement, Hyderabad Football Club has envisaged a series of engaging virtual conversations under the HFC Connect initiative. Primarily, under this initiative, the club will be hosting three exciting and engaging series, namely the Corporate, School, and Players or Coach Connect. Each of these series will have about 4 to 5 episodes, and they're brought to you in association with Borussia Dortmund and the UNESCO New Delhi Cluster Office. The first episode of HFC School Connect was held a couple of days back on August 9th, and you can access this on the HFC Facebook page or on YouTube as well. My name is Himanshu, and today I will be hosting three high-impact leaders from diverse industries, and we will talk about leadership and management before, during, and after COVID-19. But before we begin today's conversation, I would like to congratulate all the people of Telangana, football fans across the country, on the new identity of HFC. In fact, HFC has a brand new look, a brand new logo, and you will see that in this video. Okay, so before we begin today's conversation, I would like to congratulate, once again, all the people of Telangana and football fans across the country on the new identity of HFC. In fact, HFC has a brand new look and a brand new logo, which you just saw in the video. So do share with us what you think of this new identity on any of the HFC social media platforms. So let's move forward. Now, there are valuable business lessons that organizations can learn from professional football and vice versa, because both football triumph and business prosperity require a keen focus on organizational leadership and appropriate blend of skills throughout the team. With an overriding focus on organizations or companies, today we will talk about culture and values in different organizations, the new normal in terms of efficiency and productivity, communication and collaboration for a better future, and how football in particular can help organizations transcend the current challenges. Now, while getting onto the field and playing football is extremely challenging, communication and knowledge sharing is not. And therefore, Hyderabad Football Club has envisaged a series of, engaging virtual conversations under the HFC Connect initiative. And primarily under this, the club will be hosting three exciting and engaging series, namely the Corporate, School, and Players Connect. Each of these series will have about 4 to 5 episodes brought to you in association with the Borussia Dortmund Football Club and the UNESCO New Delhi Cluster Office. The first episode of the HFC School Connect was held a couple of days back on August 9th, and you can access that on the HFC Facebook page or on YouTube as well. My name is Himanshu, and today I will be hosting three high-impact leaders from diverse industries, and we will talk about leadership and management before, during, and after COVID. So all the things that I spoke before, whether it is culture or the new normal in terms of efficiency or productivity, whether it is communication and collaboration for a better future, or how football in particular can help organizations. We will look at all these things that I mentioned, not just in a local or a regional context, but also bring in a much needed global perspective on some of these challenges posed by the pandemic and what could be the potential solutions. So, without further ado, allow me to introduce our panel for today's HFC Corporate Connect. In no particular order, first up is Mr. Nilesh Jani. He is the Director of Corporate Communication and Strategic Initiatives at the Phoenix Group. Over the last 26 years, he's had experience in project finance, private equity investments, and running operations at a massive real estate company. He currently heads some key relationships for the group, involving the Converse app, facility management tie-ups, and various other key areas of growth. He's also a qualified chartered accountant and a general management and leadership degree holder from the INSEAD school. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. L. Selvam George. Currently, he is the chairman of 5E Surprise. He also comes with a wealth of experience of working in and with organizations such as TVS, Suzuki, Titan Watches, 3M, etc., where he led and helped set up robust organizational culture and good HR practices, sometimes solve some of the tough HR problems like the one with 3M in Sri Lanka. And he's also a guest faculty at some of the top business schools in India like the IIM Bangalore and the IIM Kolkata. He calls himself the prime servant at Surprise. And we will try to understand a little bit more about the ideology behind that. Last but not the least, I would like to also welcome onto the panel Mr. Benedict Scholl, who is the head of International, Commercial, and New Business at Borussia Dortmund Football Club, or BVB. They're based out of the city of Dortmund in Germany. Now, BVB is one of the oldest and one of the most successful football clubs in the world. And Mr. Scholl has, before he joined BVB, he's worked with organizations such as Sport5, which is an international sports marketing agency, and he also worked with the sports apparel brand Puma. So as I mentioned, before, this is quite a diverse panel with decades of experience across organizations, across industries, across geographies. So let's jump right into this conversation. And I would like to bring in the panel here, maybe with some quick opening remarks. Just want to get a quick check-in from all our panelists today. Maybe each one of you can take a couple of minutes to say a quick hi to our viewers and share with us what's been the biggest challenge that you as a leader faced during COVID or because of COVID, and also one opportunity that you would not have noticed if not for COVID-19. So can I ask Mr. Nilesh to start off with?
Hey, thanks a lot, Himanshu. First of all, congratulations on the new identity. That looks really very good. And I wish you the very best for that. With regards to the current challenges, as management guys, we always talk about the VUCA world. Now, VUCA means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So, in a way, we are all prepared. We are taught to deal with the VUCA world. But the biggest challenge which we faced during COVID-19 and the current ongoing lockdown was to try and understand what is this new normal. We keep talking about the new normal, but frankly there is no definition of new normal, and the issue is that every day this new normal changes. So to come to have a grip on this new normal was one of the biggest challenge, and we are still learning of how to cope with it. I would say the biggest learning which we have got through this whole entire exercise was cost efficiency. Most of our management team have now got time to sit down and review each and every operations in far more details than what we were doing earlier, So we have been able to bring a lot of cost efficiency, which earlier we were not paying attention to. So I would say that it has worked to some degree to our advantage. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nilesh. I think for me, the new normal has been, I think before COVID, we were wearing full suits. And I think now during COVID, it's mostly the top part that gets a lot of but let me bring in Mr. Scholes. What do you think is the biggest challenge that you faced as a leader, and one big opportunity that you've noticed, if not for COVID?
So first of all, a very good afternoon to India from Dortmund here. Thanks, Himanshu, for the introduction and for the kind words. As well, thanks for the invitation to join today. Interesting group for sure. Special thanks to Nitin from Hyderabad for the invitation. So I saw the 10 seconds to introduce your new identity, the new logo, which I really liked, and it gave me some goosebumps. I really like the colors, by the way, as well. Black and yellow, which is our club colors as well, which is quite special within the football industry. If you look into color codes of different football clubs, especially in Europe, it's mainly blue, it's red, but only a few black and yellow. So there is certainly a strong connection between the two teams. Thanks for that. And yeah, coming back to the question, obviously it's a challenging time for us, and I would still say it is. It not only was over the last couple of weeks and months, but it still is, because COVID is for sure not over. We are in a pretty stable situation in Germany, although the numbers are rising a little at the moment. The good thing for us is we brought the season to an end because of the quick reaction of the German government. I think Bundesliga and all the clubs worked on a concept to be able to play without attendance, which was certainly a completely different thing for us, especially the club of Borussia Dortmund really is based on the stadium experience, on the intensity of 81,000 people at the stadium. So it was a different story, but at least we were able to bring the season to an end. And if I'm supposed to name one outstanding challenge, it was certainly that for a time we were not able to deliver football. We are a football club. Some clubs call themselves a media house or a company. We are a football club. It's all about playing football. And if you cannot play that football, you could see that the one and only product that we have, we were not able to deliver. So that was certainly the biggest challenge we were facing. And indeed, at the same time, there are certain things that this current situation certainly fosters, such as, for example, and I would only name one, again, digitization. The fact that we're coming together here today, the four of us and all the viewers, is certainly something that has been fostered and improved over the last couple of weeks and months. We were anyway working across different time zones and across different locations. We have teams in China, we have teams in Singapore, we have people in the US on the ground. So we were anyway quite digital, but what we feel is the whole industry focuses a lot more, and this trend, I think, develops a lot more quickly than it did before the current situation.
Thank you for that. I think your home stadium was voted the world's I think the loudest stadium and one of the world's best football stadiums by London Times in 2000.
I think we lost Himanshu.
Yeah, seems like
everyone else is still live.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if we are still live. Himanshu is coming back there. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the VUCA world which I was talking about.
Okay, great. I think I lost the connectivity a little bit. Can I get Mr. George also to? I think I'm getting back online now. Can I get Mr. George also to share some of his opening remarks as well?
Yeah, if I compare the before COVID and after COVID, from the corporate, before COVID, the management actions will continue to have the concept of working from home. So some of the managers may not be able to control. So they have to reduce the management skill and increase the influence through leadership. That will be a big shift. We can talk about it in detail later, number one. Number two, for the business people who were thinking about the physical boundaries, suddenly they opened up the boundaries. They are looking at the world as the market, no more the locality where they are operating. This will make another impact. And more we can talk about it as we go along.
I think for all the digitization, the problems with connectivity still continue to really chase. My apologies for disconnecting there. However, let me, I think we can probably move forward. So, Mr. George, I'll get you back again. And this is something which is related to the new developments from the work home culture and things like that. So before COVID, in the offices, the communication between managers and teams was almost complete with the guys being able to see each other, observe body language, expressions, and gauge energy levels and things like that. Now with the workforce forced to work from home, what challenges do individuals, teams, and leaders have to work through, especially in terms of communication, collaboration, and productivity? Is work from home increasing productivity or is it decreasing it? And how can we create a healthy working corporate culture?
There's a lot of disturbance. I could not hear the question. Was the question for me?
Yes, sir. Let me just quickly repeat the question for you. I was talking about what challenges do individuals and teams and leaders have to work through in terms of productivity primarily, and is work from home increasing productivity or is it decreasing it? How can we create a healthy virtual corporate culture? Okay, I think we're facing a few technical problems. I'll move forward.
People from Australia told we have time with the family, we reduce the cost and the time on the travel, and the productivity actually went up. That's what they said. Can you hear me? You?
We can, but I think there's some issue with the internet and it seems breaking up. Maybe you can connect back again, sir. Maybe you can disconnect and connect back again, okay. And we'll come back to the same question. I'll move on. I think in the interest of time, we'll definitely come back to Mr. George for that question. My next question is to you, Mr. Nilesh. In the context of work from home and toughening market conditions, what change in leadership styles are required to ensure individuals' morale and mental well-being is maintained? Because I think with the complete lack of connection, I think the leaders now have a much bigger role to play in terms of keeping the entire team or all the individuals in the team motivated to continue to work.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, this is a very, very important question, Imanshu. And when we are face to face with people, there are a lot of issues which can be just solved in seconds. And today, it just takes a very different proportion in terms of how we perceive this as a problem. Also, kindly recognize the fact that various people perceive things in different ways. To give you an example, there are some people who are visual people. They need to see something and then they grasp that subject. There are some people who like to listen and they grasp, and this is something which we usually do in college, and so we generally listen to knowledge and then we grasp it. There are some people who want to go out and actually get the work done. And when we are in this particular virtual kind of environment, people who really want to go out, people who are extroverts, people who want to have personal meetings, they are facing a huge challenge. So as leadership, we have to develop that compassion and empathy. I think that's the most important thing. And I would say that adopt a principle of charity. I would like to just have a very short anecdote through which I can explain this principle. Imagine that it's a Friday, and it's usually a day when you look forward to having a great evening with your friends. But today, I mean, because of a lot of work, you're not going to be able to step out of your office even for lunch. And you very well know that you're going to sit in office for a very, very long time. Now you're already frustrated. Your colleagues come to you, they try to convince you, saying, let's go out for lunch. This has been our tradition always. Let's go out. And you know that, if you go out now, you're going to sit in office much later. But somehow you say, okay, let's go down. Let's quickly go and grab a burger or something. You end up in the shop and you find that there's a huge queue. Now, while you're, grumbling and, complaining about it, you find somebody right at the, start kind of crossing in, barging in and getting himself served. Obviously, you're, extremely angry with this situation, and you lose your cool and you start shouting at that person who just broke the line. Then another guy, approaches you and says, we are extremely sorry for this behavior. However, I represent Make-A-Wish Foundation. That kid who just broke the line, he's actually a cancer patient, and the doctors, he's a terminally ill patient. The doctors have only given him 2 months to live. Now, this guy has always been a very studious guy. He's never broken any rules. He's a nerd of the, a typical definition of a nerd. And today is his day out. Look at that Ferrari, which I've got outside. I'm taking him for a spin. He wanted to come and, just have this fun of breaking a rule for once. And that's why we are here. So now suddenly what happened? I mean, from a grumpy guy, you suddenly, fill with compassion for this boy, and you go and, hug him and say, it's okay, you're going to get well. But what changed between the first situation and the next situation is the kind of information which was available to you. So in this particular, COVID situation, this is precisely what we as leaders need to do. We need to, have a lot of compassion and empathy. The deadlines may not be met based on, your expectations. You may not have a meeting which runs as per your expectations, like, the challenges which we are facing in this current meeting also. But we should try and give the maximum benefit of doubt and a charitable interpretation of that situation to the other person. So that is a big change which we as leaders need to bring about. Back to you, Himanshu.
Thank you for that anecdote, sir. I think it absolutely makes so much sense. I think one of the first things that people definitely look forward to in their leader is someone who they can trust and who feels they must feel that the leader cares about them, and they'd be happy to follow a leader like that. And you absolutely make a valid point, in terms of empathy and how that plays a really important role. Mr. Scholes, if I can bring you here, and I want to draw an interesting parallel from football with a simple idea, something like passing. In most cases, a lot of the teams that really pass well, they keep control of the ball, they keep control of the game. And most of these players, from what I've observed, of course, in professional football, do this passing without looking at the other player. It's almost as if they know where the other player is going to be. Now, during the pandemic, in organizations, in various team members, they seem, if I may say, quite disconnected. Obviously, with the distance and a whole lot of other issues. So, what lessons from football can we take to ensure the teams and individuals stay connected? And how can organizations imbibe this culture into their employees and workforce?
I think probably you as well, in India, you've seen a couple of matches without attendance. And what was a unique thing was that you could hear players communicating with each other. And I think this is certainly something that we can take as one of the learnings. And it's probably not a brand new thing, but even more in a time of a crisis, proactive communication and communication with internal stakeholders, but as well external stakeholders, with team members, with colleagues, with our partners, with our sponsors, proactively communicating with them, even though you may not know exactly what happens in 3 or 4 weeks, but at least keeping them informed about your personal situation, showing empathy, which we already heard from Mr. Jani, is very important. Empathy, transparency, being authentic and transparent in whatever you communicate with your partners and your stakeholders. I think that's something that we can learn from the sports, but is even more important and striking at the current situation.
Okay. I think there's some issue with internet, but I'll continue. I think, can we see if we can bring back Mr. Selvam? Sir, are you back online? Can you hear us, Mr. George? I think looks like the problem is persisting. So, Mr. Nilesh, can I probably bring you back here? Something which I wanted to know, since you've kind of worked with so many organizations, large organizations as well. Do you think this entire work from home, is it working? Is the productivity is increasing or decreasing? What's your opinion on that, sir?
Yeah, I think the good news is that the work from home is working. But yes, I mean, see, every situation has a pro and a con. There are advantages and there are some disadvantages. In fact, there was a Harvard Business Review, survey which has recently been done and published, which basically surveyed a lot of these white-collared professionals to find out whether this work from home, is really effective or not. And some of the points out of those HBR survey says that the productivity actually improved, which was actually a surprise, because more improve, and we're going to have loss and dip, and productivity actually improve. The employee stress, negative emotions, and task-oriented conflict, which they used to have earlier, drastically went down. The other biggest advantage, especially for the middle management and the higher management level people, was that it really avoided unnecessary travel. They had to fly across the country sometimes just for an hour meeting or a 2-hour meeting, and the entire day would be wasted just for those couple of hours of meeting. So in a way, because of all of this, the productivity improved. However, what are the challenges which people are facing because of working from home? The biggest thing is feedback. a lot of your job satisfaction comes out of the kind of feedback that you receive from your colleagues, from your boss, the body language, sometimes, a tap on your shoulder and saying, hey, great job done. So the level of job satisfaction amongst people is dipping. The need to balance actually work and time at home, that also was put to challenge, because people thought that you're working from home, so you're available even at 8 o'clock at night. And there were calls being, arranged even late in the evening. So that was a bit of a issue. As I mentioned earlier, that people who really love to go out and interact with people, the extroverts within the team, they are facing a huge challenge and kind of a depression because they are not able to go out of their house. The other thing is about conditions at home. I mean, some people are young couples, they just have a kid delivered, or they have old parents staying with them. So they are also facing their own little challenges. But the biggest thing is, for any organization, innovation comes when people between teams start interacting in a free flow way. That has actually, what has happened is, because of this work from home, that has stopped. So we are having multiple calls, we are having multiple meetings, but it is all within the same bubble of people, or the same kind of set of people with whom we are dealing with, but we are not talking to other departments, we are not talking with other areas, which is a bit of a challenge. So from my point of view, if you ask me, yes, work from home has worked for us, but I don't think it's a long-term strategy, and it will not remain like this for a long time. We are seeing this in terms of the increasing space take up from our clients. We have contracted 1 million square feet of space during this COVID-19 times, and just yesterday we got another client who took up another floor from us. So we see that people want to come back to their offices eventually.
That's true. I think a lot of them are now, they've had enough of work from home, and I think it's just getting too much for people to continue to stay. Also, I think when you get out, there are a lot more things that you interact with on a day-to-day basis that trigger your curiosity, give you some new ideas, and keep the energy going. If I can bring you in, Mr. Scholes here. Of course, football was one of the one of the first sports to come back to action, albeit to an empty stadiums and things like that. So could you walk us through what were some of the challenges that you saw, and how teams kind of worked together to make that happen in spite of a lot of these challenges?
Sure. So first of all, obviously, this pandemic came over here to Europe in a couple of days, actually, and we were all pretty surprised by it. And I would always separate and divide what happened in three different phases. The first one was the absolute lockdown here in Germany, and during this time we were not able to play our matches. There was no Bundesliga. And as I said, we actually couldn't deliver the product that we usually deliver, which is the matches. And that was very challenging. And whatever we could do in order to show our commitment to our stakeholders, to our partners, mainly our sponsors, we did. We tried to proactively communicate about the situation. And I think we still have to pay a big thank to the German government, to the politicians who handled the situation in a way that only 7 weeks after the pandemic came here and the numbers were rising, we as Bundesliga were able to come back to play our matches, which then was the second phase. We were holding matches without attendance, which at least guaranteed people were able to watch TV and watch their favorite teams on TV. Unfortunately, not at the stadium, not in person, but at least we were able to bring the season to an end. Obviously, this is as well a financial question for all the clubs, because the costs are staying on a certain level, and the revenues were not coming in because no people could come to the stadium, and therefore that was as well a financial challenge. But these, as we call them, ghost matches, we're at least helping to bring the season to an end. And now phase 3 is what we are in right now. We are trying to prepare the new season, which is supposed to start on the 18th, 19th of September. Just yesterday, there were coming over some signs from the German government that they are hesitant to allow fans to come back to the stadium. We will see. It's a governmental decision. We as football can only provide the right concept in order to always state that health comes first, and keeping control of the situation is the most important thing and the priority at the moment. But obviously, we are trying to get prepared as good as possible under the given circumstances to start the new season, to as well help our partners and deliver the rights that we owe our sponsors. For example, if you play in a stadium without 80,000, certain advertising spaces become irrelevant that are not seen on TV. So we somehow have to find substitutes for that for our partners. And I think what really helps, as I said, is proactive communication. The fact that we are having a really close communication and partnership with mainly our big partners, such as our shirt sponsor, our kit supplier, our stadium naming right partners, and yeah, we will somehow have to keep a certain level of flexibility. As we stated earlier on, the situation changes on a daily basis, and we will always have to find the best and quickest response and reaction possible.
Was there a lot of panic or confusion when, obviously with the entire pandemic, the situation has completely changed? Can you talk us a little bit more about how was the team feeling, and were there any incidents or something one of the leaders did that just got the teams, pepped up and ready to go? Is there something like that?
I think during your introduction, you stated that the club is more than 100 years old. So the club was founded in 1909, and this club certainly has gone through different types of crisis. So we were relegated to second division, for example. We got promoted. There was a deep financial crisis for the club in 2005, 2006, so only 15 years ago. We were facing a bomb attack on the team bus in recent history. So I think the club has gone through crisis, and the club is a club that has always accepted challenges and that always came back stronger. Especially our current CEO, our president as well, they were the ones to steer the club out of that financial crisis 15 years ago. And I think this continuity, especially in a situation like this at the moment, helps to stay calm, to do the right things, and to prepare as good as possible. And therefore, I wouldn't say that there was any kind of chaos or any kind of uncertainty for sure. But I think we were calm. We were coming together on a very regular basis in order to update each other and be prepared for whatever comes. And as I said, I think the fact that we have gone through different types of crises certainly helps here.
Right. And that obviously, it brings me to my next question, which I wanted to ask you. Obviously for over 100 years, that's a long time. And BVB has been the spiritual home and extended family for some of the top footballers, some of the most passionate fans. To sustain an organization for that long and obviously still be successful definitely must take some very strong leaders and their visionary leadership. In your words, what is the leadership philosophy of BVB, or the leadership at BVB, and what do you think are some of the important things according to you in an organizational culture that can enable success over a long period of time, something which corporates and organizations can take out of a professional football club like BVB?
For us, and I think that's probably true for many different organizations, the main thing and the most important thing is to know who you are as an organization and what you stand for, what your characteristics, what your values are. And I can say that back in 2004, 2005, when the financial crisis was coming up, the club was stating to be successful, to be traditional, certain things that a lot of other European or German football clubs can state for themselves. But what we did, and the financial crisis back then was certainly the facilitator and the trigger to do it. We really tried to work out what are the unique characteristics of our club, because everyone who comes to the stadium, everyone who somehow experiences the club, understands that there are certain unique things, that it's a different club from other top European clubs. And I think what we did back then, in a process that almost took us 2 years, we tried to work out what are these unique factors, what are these unique characteristics, and we spoke to all different stakeholders. Again, our fans first and foremost, our diehards, some international fans. We spoke to the staff, we spoke to management. So all the different stakeholders were involved. And in the end, there were 3-4 values, characteristics that we feel are unique for this club. And this is something since then, since 2008 or 9, we are communicating and stressing again with everybody. Every new employee for Borussia Dortmund gets a lesson or gets an understanding of what this club is. For example, gets a city tour, travels to the location where the club was founded. Obviously, sees the stadium, not only the current stadium, but the 2 old stadiums where the club played before. And so every stakeholder, again, gets an understanding of what the club is. And these values, I think, is the overarching and the most important structure and thing in order to, as well in time of a crisis, stay strong and always stay the same organization, same club as we used to be, but still obviously adapt to the challenges and the new things and new opportunities that are coming up in times like this.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a good insight into the culture at BVB, and obviously it's really working well for almost a century now. So I think that's a good thing that a lot of the corporates can take from some of those ideas. I want to bring in Mr. Nilesh back. So working from home, of course, I'll come back to this topic again. Working from home is going to be the new normal, as we've already, of course, spoken about. Many of the top companies have already announced work from home for the next 1 year. And as you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, organizations see this not only as a necessity to kind of reduce the the spread of the pandemic, but also a good cost-cutting measure. So how do you see this affecting urbanization, and what challenges do you see, and what opportunities do you see for leaders?
Yeah. See, I mean, as I was saying, that work from home is certainly working right now. I mean, the efficiencies have gone up. But my personal view is that it may not last for long. I mean, it is a strategy which we have adopted for dealing with this pandemic. But eventually, once normalcy is restored, we may go back to our offices, and I think most of us would love to go back. But what is going to happen is that there will be far more acceptance within the management teams when people say that, can I work from home for this week? Earlier, while we had this policy of work from home, but it was mainly, taken to deal with emergencies. It was never taken for, as a part of a normal working life. Although some, forward-looking organizations were surely looking at, work from home and making it part of their culture and all of that, but largely it was only a short-term kind of a strategy. Today, what has happened is, right from the managing directors or the CEOs to people who are just interns, everyone is working from home, and they have seen the effectiveness of working from home. My personal view is that we as humans, we are social animals. We need interaction. We need fostering of relationship between us. and that can happen only when we meet in person. A lot more can get done when you are sitting across the table and talking. Especially imagine, if you have to have a very what you can say, a very hard negotiation or a hard bargain that you have to drive. It becomes quite easy when you are face to face with people rather than having it through the virtual world. So yes, there will be these kind of strategies that we will be implementing, that is working from home or working remotely, not traveling. I see this as maybe a short term, over a period of next 1 year or so. Eventually we will all go back to our offices.
Okay. And there's something which I want to bring to your notice, Mr. Nilesh. So one of the statistics that I came across recently was, of course, a lot of people are facing, mental, wellness-related issues. Obviously, with being stuck at home, or with the entire situation that the pandemic has brought about. The statistic that I came across was about 60% of the Indian population, they watch a sport, but only 1% of them actually play, and they actually engage in sporting activities. In your experience, how do you think we can use sports, or football in specific, to be a tool for outcomes like team building, initiative, leadership, or generally just build an active lifestyle in any of your roles that you've been a part of before? Have you seen examples of sport being used to harness the team's various abilities?
So Himanshu, we actually, undertake on an annual basis a sporting event. So last year we had a box cricket where we played 180 matches across. Sorry, I mean 180 people from our organization participated over 3 months. So sports is a very, very important aspect in team building. And the way I look at football or any other sport is, first and foremost, planning is as key as going down in the field and playing. So I think football teaches us that you have to plan. You should have a strategy. You should have a strategy, plan A. You should have plan B as well. And this is something which we in business we need to learn a lot more. Keep taking chances. I would say that you look at football and you will know that how many times an attempt is made to score a goal. But when you come to your real life situation, or say a work life situation, suppose you try to take up a task and you don't succeed. You try it again, and the second time also you don't succeed. You feel very disheartened. You feel very down. You feel, oh, there's something wrong with you. You start doubting your own self. I think sports teaches us, and especially football teaches us, that you have to keep taking your chances. You have to keep going back towards the goalpost and try your luck again. It's sometimes it's not your capability. Sometimes it's not your qualification, or sometimes it's not your capability. It's just that you have to be determined to go and achieve some task. Okay, so that's the second thing I would say, which football teaches us. And the third thing is, when people get hurt while playing football, in a substitute, and then once they recover, come back and play. So that is one very important thing which in our personal life also we should try and learn. You may have certain goals in your mind. You may not be able to achieve it within the time frame which you had set for yourself. So what do? You don't get disheartened. What you do is you go back, you think what went wrong, bring back all those learnings into you, and again start playing. So I think these are the three important learnings which I would say from football that I usually try to inculcate and talk about it within my teams.
That's great, Mr. Scholes. I'd like to bring in you on the same point. What's your opinion on 60% of Indians watch sport but only 1% play? I don't know what the percentage in Germany is. I'm pretty sure it's slightly on the higher side. In general, is there a culture of sport in corporates in Germany?
I don't have any recent numbers, obviously, at hand now, but I can say that we played football just on Monday with 12 people here from the club. And only looking at this match on Monday, this certainly is a unifying factor. It unites. These 12 people obviously were discussing the whole day of Monday about it. And the next day as well, you review. So it certainly brings people closer together. It creates a joint ambition. Obviously, it's about teamwork. It's about joint goals as well, that together as a team you can achieve. And therefore, I can only say that I think as well within corporates, within organizations, joint sporting activities, especially team activities, team sports, is certainly something that brings people closer together. Just to give you another example, once a year we invite our partners from all over the world to come to Dortmund and to join us for a match day. And the one and only activation and activity that we always do is a joint football match, because you meet each other on a completely different pitch. You meet each other offside of business activities, and this is certainly something that unifies, that creates a joint understanding and understanding for other people and other cultures, and therefore I think this is certainly something that always helps teams to come closer together and build a certain bond between each other.
Okay, I think that makes definitely a lot of sense. So I think we are more or less out of time right now. So I would like to probably take one or two questions from the audience. And I think this question is for both the panelists, and maybe you can take a couple of minutes each to talk about this. Hyderabad's got its first ever, ISL team in a long time, actually almost 50, 60 years at this level. How do you think, first, Mr. Jani, maybe if you can start, and then we can end with Mr. Scholes, how Hyderabad having its own professional club, the Hyderabad Football Club, it will help the corporate sector in general and workforce in terms of belonging to the city, etc. And then maybe Mr. Scholes can talk about how can it actually make a difference to the entire city on a whole, maybe drawing some parallels to the beginnings of Borussia Dortmund for the city of Dortmund. So Mr. Nilesh, you can go first, please.
Yeah. So Hyderabad has been very fortunate. It has been fostering various sports, right from, say, cricket to badminton to tennis, and now we are proud to have the football club of our own. I think a lot of engagement is going to happen between corporates and the football club. As I said, football is first of all, Hyderabad has a large amount of young, talented IT workforce. They love to watch sports. Today, one of the biggest entertainment is maybe watching movies. But then other than that, there are not that many amount of sporting events which happens in the city. With football coming here and Hyderabad having its own club, this is going to really change, and people will look forward to having this kind of entertainment and going to watch the matches on a regular basis. Apart from this, the engagement with the corporates in terms of learnings, cross learnings, having some of the coaches coming and talking about their own experiences in a corporate setup. And recently, I'm proud to say this, that Hyderabad Football Club has supported, the players have supported one of the CSR event which Phoenix was involved in, where we wanted to upgrade the slum areas at Film Nagar. So the team from HFC, they came and supported this initiative. So these kind of initiatives will happen a lot more going forward.
That's really good to hear. I think definitely football and corporate coming together has huge potential for some solid impact on the ground. Mr. Scholes, if I can get you on how having a football team in a city, can that make a difference at a city level?
I think actually Dortmund, the city of Dortmund, is a pretty good example for that. If you look at the history of the city and of the region, it used to be a coal mining area, hard working area, and obviously that has changed. The mines have closed and there are different industries coming up here. But Dortmund, in terms of international awareness as a city, is certainly not close to a city like London or a city like Paris or a city like Hamburg. So what we've actually done a couple of, I think 3 or 4 years ago, we did a survey about the naming of Dortmund in international media. And 80% of the naming of reference to the city of Dortmund was always connected to the football club of Borussia Dortmund. And I think that is one example and one expression of the fact that the club is certainly the most prominent ambassador for the city, not only outside of Germany, but as well in Germany. And as well, I think what the club certainly does for the community here, it creates a platform where local and regional companies, local and regional organizations can meet every 14 days in our stadium, either on the stands or in the hospitality areas. And therefore, I think again, it creates a certain community feeling for the city, for the industries that are connected and that are linked to the city. And therefore, I'd say that the club here not only creates direct economical benefit for the city, but as well an emotional bond for conglomerates, organizations, and companies here in and around Dortmund.
That's great to hear. I think definitely there are some exciting times for football in Hyderabad. We're done with our time. So thank you so much, Mr. Scholes and Mr. Jani. Unfortunately, we couldn't have Mr. George come back up online again, but it was definitely a very insightful discussion. What's clear to me based on this discussion is leadership in any time or in any organization, whether pandemic or not, is to catch the challenges, to spot the opportunities and marshal the resources towards a common goal. So once again, on behalf of Hyderabad Football Club, I would like to say a big thank you to UNESCO, the New Delhi Cluster Office, and of course, Borussia Dortmund for supporting this initiative. Stay tuned, all the viewers. There will be more episodes that will be coming up. Do watch the social media channels for more information. This is Himanshu Charan. Thank you once again. Signing off.
Thanks, Himanshu. You've been a great host.
Thank you, everyone. All the best. See you soon.
Thank you.